The views and opinions expressed do not necessarily represent those of Access Fort Wayne, the Allen County Public Library, or any other supporting group. Access Fort Wayne is a department of the Allen County Public Library. If you or anyone you know might be interested in making a television show, please call 260-421-1250.
Hi, welcome to the Kachmann Wellness Show. This half hour, usually at Public Access, we speaking about diabetes, stopping it, preventing it, reversing it. You can reverse it in 6 weeks. You can avoid it 90% of the time. This is always what this half hour show has been about. What I'm going to do today is maybe 10 minutes speak about that aspect. But I recently have been reading a book that's been in my library before, but it's so dramatic that I want to bring this up, and I'll discuss it in follow-up shows. Stopping Kidney Disease. Stopping Kidney Disease, yeah. And 500 pages. You don't have to read all that. Okay. By a Lee Hull, a patient who had kidney disease, and what he was able to do about it, and it taught me a great deal. And this information just isn't out there, and it's great hope for people at certain stages of kidney disease that I would like to discuss that today, because this information is not generally out there and could save a lot of lives, a lot of misery. But first, let's talk about a little bit about Rudys' war on diabetes. Rudys' war on diabetes. Why did I name it war? Well, because the community, the hospitals, the government, public health is not pushing the issue of preventing it, stopping it, reversing it. 30 to 50 diseases attached to diabetes. 30 to 50 disease, dementia, heart attacks, strokes, blindness, cataracts, almost all dental disease is sugar-related, diabetes-related, unannounced heart attacks, strokes, amputations, dislocations, bowel disease, increased rates of cancer, all related to diabetes, which can be prevented. I think it's pretty important when you consider just what I mentioned. So I've declared war in it. I would like to thank the Martin Luther King Foundation, which had me as a speaker a few Mondays ago on this subject. They picked the subject of diabetes and its diseases. They picked it. I didn't pick it. And I honor them for that, is that they like to do something about it, much more than that I see the hospitals, the medical community, or the government or industry do about it, okay? They are joining my army, and it's an army of love, but gentle force. We're going to change things. The neighborhood health clinic over there in South Calhoun has asked me to set up a room, which I'm going to start next Wednesday, to teach people how to do what we spoke about: prevention, stopping, reversing. Certain ethnic groups, racial groups, are much more likely to have these illnesses, but believe me, 70% of the white community has type 2 diabetes. Only about 40% know it, though, because they've been running the wrong test. And what I recommend is the Kraft test, serum insulins, a glucose tolerance test, an insulin assay test, we catch the disease 20 years before its time, okay? And these complications, which I spoke about, incidentally, which includes renal disease. And I ran across this book, and I'm going to read you part of it and discuss part of it because it's so fascinating. You'll hear from me. This is full of scientific references, probably a few hundred in here. This was a patient who had advanced renal disease. He was heading to dialysis and renal transplants. Remember, there's a path for this. They measure the glucose filtration rate, okay? The glomerular filtration rate. They collect the urine for 24 hours. Another way is to do a glomerular filtration rate. That's an estimate on your blood. And what they're really looking at is chemicals from the metabolism of your muscles, but it's quite accurate. And generally in normal, either way, it's about 100. 20-year-old would normally have about 100. A guy who's 39 for the 44th time, like myself, probably normal would be around 80. So as we get a day on, it does decrease. So people start getting symptoms usually below 50 or so. Not everyone. Nausea, vomiting, don't feel good, increased rates of heart attacks, increased rates of cancer, unannounced heart attacks. But kidney disease is a common complication of type 2 diabetes. Yes. And when this author talks about heart attacks, that's vascular disease. What Dr. Kraft, who published that book about serum insulin, he says raised serum insulin is what accounts for all of vascular disease. So to get a serum insulin, I think it's kind of important. And he proved it by looking at autopsies, the bottom line. But let's review a little bit what this gentleman who has kidney disease found out, researched in literature, and 30 years after his diagnosis, he's doing very well, and his glomerular filtration rate is greatly improved. Let's see what he says, okay? And so he had, it says, while working on the different issues that affected my kidneys, one day I had an epiphany, one day that changed the way I thought about kidney disease and special diets. As I reviewed kidney diets and the latest research, it hit me that we are treating the symptoms of kidney disease rather than the real problem, the root. Remember, I'm speaking about the root to get rid of diabetes. He wants to find ways of getting rid of it instead of just treating the symptoms, which it's like a gentleman told me one time, well, Dr. Kachmann, I respect diabetes. I don't want you to respect it. I want you to get rid of it. Do we understand each other? Then he says next, so for example, potassium was not a problem for me, so I had no dietary potassium restriction at first. Sodium was a problem, salt. So I had a sodium restriction. These kinds of restrictions are all, they're well and good, but we are basically saying, if you have a symptom, let's manage it. Most modern kidney disease diets and treatments should be called symptom management, not root treatment. In most cases, we have stopped trying to slow or stop the disease in most cases. Maybe I should be thinking about curing the underlying need for salt restriction. Get rid of the disease. Salt restriction is a cure for a symptom, not for the disease itself. Interesting. Isn't that interesting? We've forgotten about stopping or slowing a deadly disease. If you want to live a long time and have a better quality of life, we need to keep trying to treat the disease, not just manage the symptoms. Plus, as your kidney function declines, your dietary restrictions will grow because the disease gets harder to manage. New symptoms equal new restrictions, but no attempt is made to slow or stop the disease. It's symptom management, okay? I think this approach is one of the reasons why outcomes for people with kidney disease are so poor in the U.S. compared to other countries. The results of, with all the modern facilities we have, the result of our treatment in the U.S., the outcomes of kidney disease is worse than most countries. Renal doctors, do you hear this? Nephrologists, do you hear this? Maybe you ought to read this book. Maybe you'll give me a phone call. So I sat back one day and thought about treating the factors driving my disease instead of just managing my symptoms. I asked myself their remission what would look like. How could I get there? How could I stop or slow the pace of my disease when drugs and many diets had failed? Remission typically means your kidneys go back to normal. If you have a remission of disease, your kidneys go back to normal. That wasn't realistic for me after more than 10 years of disease progression. At this stage, my kidneys would well be damaged, even the best of scenarios, but partial remission or a dramatic slowdown in the progression of my disease might be possible. Slow it down or stop the progression. A good goal, okay? My epiphany was the thought that maybe my body would stop attacking my kidneys. See, the body attacks the kidneys to get rid of them because they're not functioning right. The body senses that. So that even increases the damage. So stopping it, the disease won't progress, okay? In addition to reducing protein workout, protein is what puts the most stress on the kidney. I had to treat all the other factors that were causing me to drive 100 miles an hour toward kidney failure. Dialysis, renal transplants, okay? Low protein diets, remember I talked about the protein, did reduce the workload of my kidneys, but the theory behind these diets seemed to be that all kidneys do is deal with protein. See, all the recommendations are based on protein levels. The kidney does more than that. However, when you lose kidney function, you lose it across the board. Your whole body goes haywire. Low protein diets take part of the workload off the kidneys, but they'll have plenty of more work to do. I need to treat all of the functions of my kidneys and not just the protein workout. I also needed to eat foods that helped or protect my kidneys if possible. So it wasn't just the protein, okay? I would only eat foods that required very little work for foods that might even protect my kidneys. Combined with this was a knowledge that I needed to treat every factor of kidney disease. I would not just watch the protein. That's why I refer to my plan as the kidney factors diet. It's not just the protein. There are other factors, okay? The kidney factors diet. I want to address all of the factors driving my disease. Low protein diets should be called protein workout low diets. It's more than just the proteins. After trying dozens of diets, I can tell you that to have real success, you have to treat the whole kidney, not just part of it. It makes sense, and science backs this approach. The problem is no one does it or educates patients in this approach. He has a new paradigm. He's breaking the wall. Our kidneys have excessive capacity to handle the waste products to keep our pH, that's acid alkalinity, balanced. It has to be balanced or you very rapidly would die, okay? So even if you eat the worst foods in the world for your kidneys, they will dutifully do the job, will keep your metabolic numbers in the normal range. So most of the time you eat horrible food one day. If we have 20% at least excess kidney function to control it, no problem for you. The darn trouble is when the kidney doesn't respond anymore, okay? But as you lose kidney function to disease, your kidney's capacities for all workouts fall, not just handling protein waste, for everything, okay? So we have to reduce the total workout load of kidneys to slightly below what they actually handle. So remember I talked about the glomerular filtration rate, GFR, okay? You can roughly define the capacity of the workload of your kidneys by using GFR or eGFR, which is the blood test, estimated glomerular filtration rate. Your GR could be as high as 100 or even 120 when you're healthy, okay? All right? you have 100% of your normal capacity plus 20% excess capacity. Okay? So, in addition, healthy kidneys can kick into high gear when needed to efficiently increase the GFR temporarily. We spoke about that already. When patients go on dialysis, where you got to come in and lay there for 20 hours while they run the sugar machine, and they do the work of your kidneys for you. That's what dialysis is. Okay? Your glomerular filtration rate usually is around 15 or below, stage 5 kidney disease. Okay? This represents an 85% reduction in capacity compared to a healthy pair of kidneys with a GFR of 100. Okay. So we know. So GFRs in the teens, 10, 15s, when you're getting transplants or being dialyzed. Okay. However, if your GFR is between 30 and 70, imagine that, 30 and 70, you have a much better chance of achieving this. Okay. When it's way out of hand, like 15, it's hard to reverse it. But what he's saying is, between 30 and 70, you get a chance of stopping it and maybe even reversing it, which today's kidney patients know nothing about. Okay? So for instance, let's assume your GFR is 50. Then your numbers will start to go outside the normal ranges. Your symptoms will increase, and your kidney and heart disease progression will become accelerated. Things speed up when you're getting down to 50, 40, 30. So that's because a workload of 100 with a capacity of 50 results in excess waste products in your blood, acidosis, cramps, nausea, vomiting. You don't feel good. This excess workload is what causes your symptoms. Eating more than your capacity is the root of all your symptoms. It also has the power to greatly accelerate your disease. So what you eat can slow it down or speeding up. And that's what he's leading to, maybe eating different food, okay? And remember, most of these kidney problems are related to diabetes, and we know that's related to the type of food that you're eating. That's the trick, he says, okay? You can dramatically reduce or dramatically increase the workload in your kidneys with your diet choices. Buenos dias, wake up, America. What you are eating, even if you're feeling good, if your glomerular filtration rate is up, you need to change the way you eat, okay? And what if our kidneys never had to filter out large amount of these waste products? What if your kidneys never had to produce ammonia to offset the high acid diet which we're eating? The kidney has to make the ammonia. That's work to keep the pH balanced, okay? What if your kidneys didn't have any oxidative stress or inflammation in them? So your kidneys cannot fully process your current diet when they are damaged. Got to watch what you eat. If your body could process your current diet, your numbers would be in the normal range. Okay, but your test is abnormal. Okay, if your kidneys can fully process your diet, your numbers will go back to normal. Mm-hmm. Your kidneys are handling the workload just like normal kidneys. This can be done through diet in many cases. He had success. He's read about other people. He's done it himself. Okay? And so for my part, he said, by trial and error and thanks to research, he learned to reduce the workload to below his current glomerular filtration rate. I did the work for my kidneys with diet. See, the kidneys couldn't do his job. So he did the work for them by eating the right food. Interesting, okay? The biggest surprise to me was that as soon as my metabolic numbers started getting back in the normal range, meaning his cholesterol and blood sugars and HDL and blood pressure, the body stopped attacking his kidneys, and supposedly his incurable autoimmune disease, where the body's attacking the kidneys, finally stopped progressing. The glomerular filtration rate stayed the same, didn't get worse. Okay? Something happened that strong drugs in the best hospitals and doctors in the country could not do. When I got off the diet for a few months, which, can happen, things get worse again. That told you something, didn't it? So before your disease, your kidneys could keep everything in the normal range despite a very high workload. You had no symptoms, and your blood and urine tests were in the normal range. You had no symptoms because your kidneys could handle the workload. If you trick your body into thinking everything is normal again, then your body may go back to normal. I think this is the secret to going into remission. His body stopped attacking the kidneys with everything looked fairly normal. His body no longer saw his kidneys as a defective part of the body. And so my turn for the better only happened when certain combination of diet and supplements, he said, treated every aspect of kidney function. He kept the renal acid pH load normal. He kept track of what he was eating in terms of protein, waste, or uremia, antioxidants, inflation, sugar, and called ages, sugar and proteins. So he didn't just manage his symptoms, but he did the work for his kidneys by eating the right diet. Interesting. But remember, this is related in majority of cases to type 2 diabetes, which you know how to correct, and you wouldn't get the kidney disease in the first place. So his knowledge of this is really catching up to what I gave you already on other shows. Okay? His current nephrologist, kidney doctor, argues that even though my improved blood and urine tests exactly tracked with my change in diet and supplements, I could have gone into remission for several reasons. The doctor didn't agree that it could have been just as nutrition. Well, small possibility, but it's possible, he honestly admits. But other diet combinations did not change this blood and urine test. As many other diets progressed, my blood and urine work barely changed when he started eating bad food. This time was different. It didn't happen overnight, but everything kept going better the longer I stayed on the diet. The longer he stayed on proper eating, the longer his glomerular filtration rates, instead of getting worse, were the same or better. And I could feel and see the difference. My ankles, hands, and face were not swollen anymore. In fact, my wedding ring kept falling off because my hands were no longer swollen. Okay? And one theory Dr. Walzer expressed was that our kidneys were not designed to handle such a high workload for extended periods of time. The diet and eating habits of most people in the United States today send our kidneys and other internal organs more work than they're designed to handle. Interesting. Another theory is our kidneys are literally worked to death producing ammonia, the one that keeps your pH level, which is critical, because if it gets off even a little bit, you're dead. Okay? And if you doubt this, think about lifespans dropping for the first time in 200 years. We might be eating ourselves to death, eating the wrong food. Another way to look at the concept of kidney workload is caloric restriction. They found in animals, they restrict the calories, they live longer. They can severely restrict the calories of animals. They found they live a lot longer. Makes you kind of wonder if it is the kidneys don't have to work as hard, you can live longer. Kind of interesting. And so every calorie you eat increases the workload on your kidneys. None of these theories are proven yet, but all point to one conclusion: excess workload is literally killing our kidneys and might be killing us in the process. Reducing the workload by diet changes or by caloric restriction has the potential to slow or stop disease progression. Actually, I think it has been proven when we realize we can reverse diabetics the majority of the time. And so increasing the workload on damaged kidneys accelerates kidney decline. And once I made this realization, I made a determination, and now I share it with you. We are going all out to try for partial remission or dramatically slowing the progression of our disease. You can call it hardcore extreme, full court press, damn the potatoes, damn the torpedoes, or whatever you want. And that's why Rudy has a war on diabetes. He feels the same way I do. This is durable. This is durable. He had been asked to speak to other patients. He got a lot of pushback initially regarding diet. He says, let's listen to this. We act like eating a diet for healthy kidneys is a form of punishment for going to an extreme. But listen to this, I agree. But how is eating healthy for your kidneys more extreme than letting a machine filter your blood for 18 to 20 hours a week? You get the point? Eating right would be a lot easier than to go to this place, you got to drive there, put your machine 18, 20 hours every week so that you can live. That makes sense? And you're going to do it the rest of your life, and your life will be curtailed a bit too. And or having surgery to put someone else's kidney inside of you. That's not extreme. Changing the way you eat, I think, would be a lot easier. Okay? And listen to this. This is the most dramatic of all. How is taking drugs, which you got to take so you don't reject the kidney, steroids, okay, increases cancer rates 300 to 400%. Mm-hmm. Wow. And come with some very nasty side effects, somehow considered normal. But a kidney diet is extreme. I mean, that's a joke. It's a joke. And we didn't even say a diet. I don't like him using the word diet. A way of eating. Eat nutrient-dense food, 80%. Progression may stop. Extreme praying that they will find a transplant match for you, and you won't be one of the 13 patients dying every day waiting on a transplant, okay? All right? Trust me, the diet and treatment plan are absolutely nothing compared to any of the real-life alternatives. Diets seem extreme only because we're not used to them, okay? They require change, little willpower, but if you can live another 30, 40 years, see your children and wife, take care of them, I think it's worth it. I think that's not an extreme. And we can't forget that we have a deadly disease that may kill us 30 years prematurely. 30 years before your time. Remember, I keep on saying that. And you'll be disabled, hooked to a machine. And our last decade of life or so won't be cakewalk, saying what I said. And so I set out to devise a new diet plan, he said. My first step was to identify all food groups, supplements that could accelerate my disease or create a large workload for my kidneys. Next, I identified all the things I could do to slow my disease. The combination of these factors was going to save me, I thought. Okay? After that, he set some parameters. So he said diets must reduce the workload of the kidneys. Okay? And we want to be able to buy all the foods in any local grocery store and spend less per month than we spend today. He set certain goals. Okay? So in the rest of this book, he discusses in each chapter, and he has a scientific research. And so the most current diet advice is based on managing sodium, potassium, and phosphorus, not diet. That seems a bit ridiculous, okay? So these need to be managed, okay? Therefore, I think the best non-drug research and diets and treatments will come from us people with kidney disease. That's the message. The people who have it will change the system. I will help them. Rudys has declared war on diabetes. That's war number one. I think I'm going to declare war number two. I'm declaring war on kidney disease. They are related to each other, but I think they can, through proper nutrition supplements, I think we can get rid of this disease. And in the next shows that I have, I will present some more scientific evidence out of this book. I'm praying that some renal nurse or some renal doctor will look me up and either join me or take me on about it or discuss it. I gladly put it on a TV show, but I'm not stopping with this because I've declared war on it, and I will give you all the information that you can, and we need to spread this information for prevention and for people who already have stage 1 or 2 or 3 or maybe even 4 kidney disease, as we can might be able to stop it or even reverse it a bit, as Mr. Lee Hull here has done. We thank him for writing this book, which you could get actually on Amazon, $19, 500-page book, or borrow mine, We love you. Thanks for listening. Excuse my passion, but I'm saving lives here. And I hope you enjoy me in this message. I'll be back in another week. Namaste. Thanks a lot.